Hey everybody in Internet Land, this is the Mother Brain of the Mother Brain Files, and we're now getting into the holiday season, which means we're going to get all the Oscar bait films of the year. And today's review is going to be the movie Flight, starring Denzel Washington and directed by Robert Zemeckis. This is Zemeckis' first live-action film in almost 12 years, the last live-action film of which was Castaway with Tom Hanks. Since that time, Zemeckis has been doing a lot of motion capture animation films, Polar Express, Beowulf, and A Christmas Carol. So this is a nice welcome return, but also a very interesting and complex film for Zemeckis to tackle. His first R-rated film since his 1980 classic Used Cars, which I recommend you go check out and see on DVD if you could get your hands on it. Flight tells the story of Denzel Washington playing Whip Whitaker. He's a drug-addicted, alcoholic airline pilot who just so happens to be in a very unfortunate circumstance in which his plane malfunctions on a flight from Florida to Atlanta, and as the crew and the passengers are in a panic mode, feeling as if the plane's going to crash, Whitaker manages to maneuver his way with the plane to get it actually upside down and then land it safely, but with a few casualties along the way. And of course, when he recovers in the hospital, he finds out that now he's this national hero who just saved all these passengers, and he's also being questioned by the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, over a toxicology report they conducted while he was still in a coma, in which they discovered that he had cocaine and alcohol in his system. So he's in a dilemma in which he could lose his job and possibly go to jail unless Don Cheadle, who plays his lawyer, can prove that the plane was malfunctioned before he even stepped foot onto the aircraft. But the film isn't so much about the will he or won't he prove his innocence and prove that the plane was in fact malfunctioned, but it's more of a complex tale of a man who, as a result of a near tragic circumstance, has to confront his own demons. For Denzel Washington, the film has to be, in my opinion, his best performance since Training Day. It's a very complex kind of role, a character who doesn't have all the answers, a character who has a problem confronting his demons and living in denial throughout the entire film. By becoming this national hero, he's also become exposed to the problems that he has personally with his drug and alcohol problem, and is forced to confront it not only through his family and his friends, but also through just his internal conflict within himself, who cannot admit to the fact that he has these problems, and ultimately has to make a big sacrifice at the end in order to find some level of closure and redemption. Denzel could pull out anything, and he could always be put to a challenge and rise up to this challenge, and I think this was probably his most unrecognizable type of role for God knows how long, because of the fact that he's played so many leading men who've always had the answers, who've always been defiant, and in this case, this is a guy who is very grounded, very real, and doesn't have his problems all solved by the end of the film. He goes through a problem that will probably continue to go on, and I definitely expect to see some sort of Oscar nomination for his performance for the Oscars next year. It was incredible, and you know, what else could I really say about Denzel? There was a very great supporting cast in this movie. You had John Goodman playing the drug-dealing friend of Denzel, and he steals virtually every scene that he's in. It's almost kind of like a role similar to what he did in The Big Lebowski, but probably amped up just a little bit more than what he did then. And you had other great guys. You had Don Cheadle playing the lawyer for Denzel's character. Great to see those guys working together again for the first time since Devil in a Blue Dress. And I would say, yeah, a lot of the actors he worked with in this movie were actors that he had close associations with from previous film and television projects. Bruce Greenwood, who he worked with on St. Elsewhere back in the 80s, playing his airline pilot buddy, who also works for the Union. And you also had Tamara Tooney playing the flight attendant who gets pushed into a position by Denzel to possibly have to lie for him in front of the NTSB board. And you also had Kelly Reilly, a totally unknown British actress whose only real major American credit was Sherlock Holmes, playing this character Nicole, who is a heroin addict who meets Denzel's character while he's in the hospital, and the two engage in a relationship. Now, a lot of black women have been very vocal in the past about certain Denzel performances where his love interests have been either Hispanic or Caucasian. And I would have to say their relationship in this film might have been one of the weak points that I felt personally. It reminded me too much of the Denzel-Mila Jovovich relationship in He Got Game. And, you know, I just feel like, okay, I understand that she's supposed to be recovering from her own addiction while Denzel can't seem to admit to his own addictions. And that causes kind of a rift between them. But before that, there's, of course, you know, a connection between them because of their personal problems. I just felt maybe it might have been a bit too much. I understand it, but for a guy like Zemeckis, who had done Forrest Gump, with Robin Wright's character Jenny being a drug addict, love interest, it felt like maybe he was just retreading those same waters again. Alyssa Leo playing the lawyer who's supposed to be, quote-unquote, investigating for the NTSB board about whether or not the plane was malfunctioned, or was it a result of Denzel's drug addiction that the plane went out of control. And pretty much, you know, not her best role, but I guess to be there and to see her work with Denzel was kind of cool, when she has to confront him in front of the NTSB board at the very end of the movie. And for director Robert Zemeckis, who's been so used to doing big special effects extravaganzas and also the more sentimental films like Forrest Gump and Castaway, this felt like in some ways a companion piece to Castaway, but very different because he doesn't go crazy with his cinematic style. Yes, there's some complex shots, yes, there's some trademarks here and there, shots of clocks, shots of lightning bolts like he does in every movie, but this is more like a character-driven piece that could have easily been done as a Broadway play. He pulls the camera back enough to just let the actors breathe and just do their performances. And it's just totally different from the Back to the Future movies and Roger Rabbit. And yes, even Forrest Gump, for the love-hate relationship that that film has with its audience. Alan Silvestri, I have to say, he, as well as Zemeckis deviating from his directorial style, Alan Silvestri, who's been so known for doing the big scores for Zemeckis' films, and also more recent action extravaganzas like The Avengers and Captain America, goes for a more subtle, piano-driven score that's very scarce throughout the film, much like he had done in Castaway, but even more simple, more distinct, and really punctuates the emotion and the complexity of Denzel's character and the situation that he's in. It's just inspiring, and also shows that he's just great. You know, Silvestri's a legend in the film score business. So overall, I would have to probably give Flight about 3 stars. I definitely feel that performance-wise it was an excellent film. The cinematography and the story work beautifully together. I have my differences with the Denzel-Kelly Reilly relationship, as well as maybe some moments where it may have gotten a little too sentimental, and other times the style of Zemeckis was a little too on the nose, which I know he's been criticized about in previous films. But overall, very much a good movie to see in the theaters if you're looking for a straight character piece with a good story behind it. We'll be back soon with our video review of the new 007 film Skyfall. Until then, this is the Mother Brain. You can check us out at Coast Blog and see our future blogs, as well as our blogs on underrated actors and some of my other op-ed pieces. So that's it for now. I'll see you here back soon on Coast Blog and on YouTube. and go out and see Flight. It's in theaters now.